We're live. How's everybody doing tonight? 19 October. I know I said 18th earlier today. Losing track of time. This is the last nice day of the year in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. It's 23 degrees outside. Beautiful day. And it's going to go in the shitter real fucking quick. So we're going to have a good time tonight. Thank you for tuning in, listening in, watching live. Appreciate it. Appreciate everybody coming out. Sorry, I've been here for a couple weeks. A lot of stuff going on, a lot of moving parts. And I'm going to be missing a couple in the next few weeks. I'm in hunting camp. But we will be live from Mexico, Saludita, Mexico, like I was last March for my birthday. A few things to talk about tonight. I got JT and Morgan, who I'm going to bring here in a second. Mixed messaging within the Canadian Armed Forces is the core content of tonight's show. And I also want to talk about a couple other things. But without further ado, let's bring the boys in. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Morgan Warren, Mr. JT Ferris. What's going on?
Not much.
Not much and a lot at the same time.
A lot at the same time. You guys get outside? You getting on the bike, Morgan, or what?
Oh, I was on the bike all day.
Perfect. My dog's trying to chew his own ass right now, so that'll be good content. What are you doing, man? JT, you've been saving the city. It's good.
Keeping the city safe at night. At
Good
night there,
stuff.
bro. Been making meatballs today.
Making meatballs. Listen, let's talk about meatballs for a second. Because everybody has a different meatball recipe. And you like soak breadcrumbs in red wine and mix that in with your 50-50 mix.
Yeah, do a 50-50 mix. Today was a cab sav that I used for soaking in with the bread. The other thing too is I used what is that? Where it's the butter buns. It's a fancy word for those. But yeah, I was using buns today. So the only thing you have to worry about with buns versus bread is with the bread you can kind of take the crust off, and if you use buns, you really have to break them down quite a bit because you don't want to have all these like.
Gotcha.
Bites.
You got broken audio, man. Like your connector's not all the way in or something.
Okay, is that any better there?
Just stop buying that $9 gear. Yeah, I don't know, man. I change my meatball shit up all the time. I usually do a 60-40 split between 40% pork, 60% either wild game or beef, and then mix in some fennel and some whatever, salt, pepper. I keep it kind of simple. I haven't done like eggs and fucking breadcrumbs and shit. It's not really my thing. And then I sear them really quickly, and then I let them simmer in the whatever sauce I'm making. Morgan orders his on Skip. Are you making meatballs lately or what?
No, not really. No.
It is a hot topic. Meatballs. So
when you said everybody deals with, everybody's got their own. We're going to talk about meatballs. I thought you were talking about, the chain of command.
Oh well, we'll get to that. Don't worry about that. Yeah, your connection is fucking good now.
Yeah.
Still choppy video. We'll work on that. Before we dive into this, Bryce had this question, which was a fucking weird question to me. So we'll put it out there. Although nobody's on the chat right now, but they'll get there. And his question was, if you had a civvy friend and an army or a veteran friend, whatever, arguing, who do you back? And I thought that was a weird question because to me, we'll back the guy that's correct. It doesn't matter. Thoughts, comments?
Well, I kind of understood what he was saying and first off, is sound any better there, Chris? Or is it still a little choppy?
Yeah, no, you're good. Whatever interference you had is all gone.
Sweet.
We apologize to you listeners.
Apologize. But I kind of understand what he was getting at, where I've been in those situations where you're in this discussion, things get heated, and all of a sudden your peers, so I'll just leave that as another vet, disagrees with someone that's either not in the organization, and then for whatever reason they come back to you and they'll have this like very bizarre. I would say, like, they come back to you being very sensitive, saying like, yeah, how come you didn't back me? Like, what's the deal, right? So I've kind of been in that situation before, and then had to have that difficult conversation saying, yeah, you were wrong and you're crazy. And the other contributing factor to that is there's usually alcohol as well too. So that I can kind of understand what he's saying.
No,
But yeah,
there's the crux. Are you high as fuck? Ryan joined us. Thanks, Ryan. Are you under the influence of any kind of substance prior to this conversation? Because normally when there's arguments between people that are fucking loaded, I just walk away. It's like, this is a waste of my time. So I don't know. It's a weird question. It sounds like it's a practical question that he's living through right now. And it's just like, whatever. Like, you don't have to pick a side. Pick the side that's right, that you support. Veterans are fucking idiots too. Trust me. Just because they're a veteran doesn't make them special. So I don't know. Morgan, what do you think? Morgan's frozen. You're on mute, dude. We can't hear you. It's a hell of a story, but nobody can hear anything you're saying.
Okay,
but I think
I turned my mic off. No, I agree with everything you guys just said. Listen to the two of them and, pick what side either you agree with, you think is right. Just because you're a veteran doesn't mean you're my friend. I say the same thing. Like, I'm a Patricia. I'm in the infantry. Just because you're a Patricia doesn't mean I automatically like you. I'd say, probably 90% of veterans I probably don't even like. Who knows, right?
Well, that's really it. It comes down to, so that's a good analogy. Like, if you're talking about being downtown at a bar, I'm going to back a guy from my unit if he's fighting a civvy, probably, unless he was wrong. If he's a fucking idiot, and I'm going to fucking pull him out and then sort him out,
Yeah.
So I'm not sure the context of that, but to me, it's like, Bryce is not with us today. He's all fucked up from his car crash. He's got busted ribs and he's in the middle of a move. I don't know what he's doing. But at the end of the day, it's a non-question question. You shouldn't feel obligated to support somebody because they're a veteran if both guys are your friends. If you feel like you need to be a mediary between the two, let them hash it out and then arbitrate, whatever the fucking word is you want to use, and pick the correct side.
Yeah.
Or mediate the indifference somehow. Like, I don't know, but it's not like I don't pick a side. I don't have a lot of civvy friends.
No, because by assuming or just by me backing every veteran that disagrees with somebody, and I back him not because I agree with him, but simply because I think, or simply because he's a veteran and I am. Really, all that does is it diminishes like me as a person and my credibility. If people are going to be like, well, I'm not going to listen to Morgan because no matter whether I'm right or wrong, he's always going to back the veteran, and you're just making yourself look stupid if that's what you're going to do.
No, for sure. I mean, I know a million flag waving veterans that are fucking idiots. Yes, they serve their country. Yeah, they were good on the gun, whatever. But out in public, they're fucking mental midgets. So whatever. I'm not going to back that guy. If a guy says something fucking stupid or is doing something stupid, I'm going to check him. That's my first obligation as a peer veteran, if you will, is to check the guy and go, stop it. Stop what you're doing. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing what you are and were, and shut the fuck up and get out of here. Right.
Yeah.
It's that kind of situation. So again, Ryan, to answer your question, we don't have the context. He threw it out arbitrarily. Hello, Danielle. So we don't know. I don't know. Like, if I had more context, sure. But my advice to him was, you're not obligated to support somebody if, like, you shouldn't have to pick sides. And again, I don't have a lot of civvy friends because you know why. But if they were arguing, I would just like fucking stop them and go, what the fuck are you guys talking about? And hear it out. The same way I would do it between two military guys, or if I had more than one civvy friend. I got a couple. They're all radio guys, so there was as army guys. Let's have this conversation and work it out, right? It's not like you have to pick a side, I guess. So that's the short version of what I'm attempting to say.
And a good way to pivot on that there, Chris, Chris, is I like how you said pull them out, check them out.
Yeah.
This might be a good opportunity to actually just. There's two parts to this. No, you don't have to agree with the discussion or the context, but then afterwards, depending on what the discussion or how the discussion's going, it might be worthwhile to actually check in with that peer and have some very difficult conversations, just making sure that they're okay, sleeping all right, mental health, and maybe kind of having a larger discussion with them, especially if it's very confrontational. I've been in those awkward situations where, yeah, these become very polarized, and it's no longer a case who's right or who's wrong. It's just it's very obvious that somebody might be a little broken in this conversation.
Yeah, again, I don't have the context behind the question, but he wanted to throw it out as a hypothetical. There's way too many variables to to guess what scenario he's talking about. But to me, it's to me it's irrelevant the status of the guy being a veteran or not, unless he's dealing with mental health problems and can't reason normally with civilians, which is something I guess you need to be cognizant of. Oh, it must be important. So it's fucking case by case. You could flip it the other way, where maybe you had a civvy, but he's all fucked up for some reason, like some traumatic shit happened in his life, and he's the guy going off the deep end. You got to pull that guy to the side and go, dude, you need to fucking bring her down a fucking peg because you're out of line. So it's I guess the point I'm attempting to convey is the status of the individual, whether a veteran or not, or a current serving member of the military, whatever, is completely irrelevant to how do you manage a an argument between two of your friends. That's a separate conversation, right? I don't know.
Well, I like actually how you really put it in perspective, in the moment where these are two individuals talking, and we're fortunate enough that all of us have been in a leadership position and have actually had to have these difficult conversations or try to even remove yourself a little bit from the situation, especially as it escalates, and just kind of see where your concerns are, because like what you're saying there, Chris, it might not be just the vet, it might be the other like your friend, like your vet, your civvy friend that's actually having some difficulties with the situation. So I like how you actually pitched it that way, and it really is case by case. It's individual by individual, and really we're all fortunate enough that we've had kind of a lot of experience having difficult conversations and just seeing people when they quickly escalate and they're not taking in all that information. They're not actually trying to kind of meet in the middle and actually have a rational discussion, whether we even want to kind of bring that to the current state of the world. That's where we are. Sorry, that's where we are, where things will get polarized very quickly. So again, fortunate enough that all of us are pretty level-headed and that we can kind of see when things become very polarized. So
yeah, or you can just fucking choke people out. I mean, there's a few ways you can approach it. Anyway,
people need to be choked out.
What's that?
Sometimes people need to be choked out.
Exactly. It solves things quicker than people think, but it's not the preferred method of dispute resolution.
But it is still a method of dispute resolution.
100% it is, and I don't disagree with that. I still believe if your kid's out of line, you can smack him in the fucking head. Whatever. That's me. I'm from the 70s. What do you want? Oh, let's get into it. So it's this next topic, which is the crux of tonight's pod, is actually something I didn't really want to fucking go back to. I feel like we flogged this to death a little bit. But there was an article that came out last week in the Ottawa whatever on CBC. And I'll show you guys the article if I can remember how to share a screen. So just give me a second. And Chrome tab. We want this one. So here, what came out. The military eases vaccine mandate. presses ahead with discipline for unvaccinated troops, which is like a fucking contradiction in itself. Okay, I'm not going to scroll through because the listeners can't see this. I've put a link to this article in the bottom. We will kind of peruse through it a little bit and hit the salient points and have some discussions on it. So basically, last week, the military's in the process of, and again, I don't know, Morgan, what you've heard, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Or JT. So for everybody, so everybody's clear, we have an interesting dynamic here. I'm out of the military, retired warrant officer. JT's current serving, part-time warrant officer. Morgan is current serving, no-time warrant officer, who has been at work since fucking last November 11th.
But I'm still getting, technically, I'm still on the remar. I'm still getting paid.
Yep,
still
getting paid. Still looking.
I'm still in the Army.
Yeah, and still looking like JTF 1.5, loving it.
Right.
Love the look. But the short version is what they're saying is, and there was an interview with the Chief of Defense Staff, General Wayne. How do you pronounce the last name?
Wayne.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to speak highly of the CDS. So for those of you watching or listening that do not know who the CDS is, the Chief of the Defense Staff, he's the senior uniformed person in the Canadian Armed Forces. That guy's a shitty job because he answers to the Minister of National Defense and the Prime Minister. So he answers to fucking politicians. And in this climate, with this extreme left interesting government that we have, it's a very challenging job to be in. So I don't want to shit on too hard. That being said, some of the comments he made in that article, which you can find down below, really irked me. And it comes down to mixed messaging being sent to the troops, right? So what they're saying, if you read through it, is, yeah, we're going to ease vaccines, but you still need to be vaccinated in certain cases. And it's just a fucking colostomy bag of an interim policy, okay? Right? So, Morgan, have you gotten anything from your chain of command lately? Let's get an update.
As a matter of fact, yeah, my RSM called me on Friday. It's actually the first time he's called me pretty much since this is kind of kicked off last November. I've talked to him just a few times where I had to go in to sign papers and I talked to him, but it's the first time he ever actually reached out to me. Just, I guess I'll back up just with regards to the Chief of Defense Staff, Colonel or General Air. I actually had him as a battalion commander in the 3rd Battalion, and he was an excellent CO, probably one of the best COs I've ever had. Like, come to think of it, the exercises we did, he was a hard driving infantry officer. Had him as a division commander. He was a 3-div commander for a while. Very smart. Like this guy, like wears an American Special Forces, the blue and gold tab on his, like this. He's a soldier. Yeah. Like there's no two ways about it. He's a good soldier. He's a smart man, and he's an excellent officer. But he's a politician, and I feel bad for him, and I'm disappointed in him at the same time, right?
And that's kind of what I'm saying, because like I know of him throughout his career,
yeah,
and he's well respected amongst the
very well respected
by the troops. And now he's in that job, and like how many of his predecessors got fucking shit canned for whatever reason?
Yeah,
under the political climate we live in, he's in a very precarious place. And again, I'm not shitting on him specifically with the direction I'm going to go with this, but I am shitting on the direction or the mixed messaging and how it impacts the troops on the ground.
Yeah. So the like back in like last October, November, you had the first. It wasn't an order; it was a directive. That's the words that they use. These aren't my words; these are their words. So it wasn't an order; it was a directive. So you had Directive 001, and then like a couple of weeks later, like first week of November, you had Directive 002. And Directive 002 was the one essentially that sent me home, stating that I was going to be, 5F released from the military. And here we are, essentially 11 months almost exactly, from the time that I was sent home. So now Directive 003 was just released last week. And I think it was released on last Wednesday or Thursday. I had the link. It's public access. Anybody can go and check this thing out. I read this link thoroughly, or I read this directive thoroughly, just like I did the first and second one, to make sure I was, aware of what it was. And then on Friday, I got a phone call from my RSM, and he was informing me that the things have changed, and that Directive 03 had come out. I was like, yeah, I'm well aware of RSM. I've read it, and I told him, I was like, straight up, I was like, it makes no sense. It contradicts itself, and it's an absolute lack of a decision, is what it is. Like I've read through it, so it's kind of funny. It's like, you can join the Canadian Armed Forces without a COVID vaccine. It's going to kind of push down to unit level. Like, you can be retained. That being said, depending on where the disciplinary line of events here you are currently at is going to depend on whether you're going to be retained or whether you're going to be released. Like, people that already have been given release dates but haven't been released yet they're going to continue to push these people out. But someone like myself, who my file has gone to DMCA and they said that I will be released, but I haven't been given a release date, will be retained. So my RSM said, yes, you will be forcibly retained. And in the directive, it states that anybody that's been under like administrative review or any like disciplinary actions, everything is to cease as of now. It will remain on your file as a mark and kind of keep on moving forward. The directive then kind of gets into like what this looks like and what this means for the force. So will it affect your deployability? Well, absolutely. So if you're going to deploy somewhere and the host nation says you have to have whatever vaccinations.
Yeah, which is nothing new. For everybody watching, nothing new. You had a vaccination. We're going to come to that later.
But what they're saying now, though, is
vaccinations to deploy. It's not a new fucking thing.
No, exactly. But what they're saying now is, I mean, the COVID vaccine is a little bit different than the other ones.
Sure.
So now I'm kind of non-deployable, kind of not really. I can still go on major exercises. I can still do like Op Lentis, all the aid to civil power, filling sandbags and all that shit. I can still do that. And depending on what the foreign operation is, maybe I could deploy, maybe not, which is not really useful when you're in a frontline unit. If you're doing a neo task or if you're on the DART, like, you can't be like, well, maybe I can deploy, maybe I can't, right? So what they're saying is that people like me, what they're going to do is, because obviously everybody knows we're in a recruiting and retention crisis, and a week before that, another directive was released stating that non-essential training will cease, and they're putting all their eggs in the recruiting and training system. So all the schools across Canada, the recruiting centers, everything's going to be full, at the expense of the units, so that they can pump through new recruits. They're actually going to shorten some battle school and basic training timeframes so they can get more people into units. So somebody like me, who I have a wealth of experience and knowledge, I could be sent to a school and I'm still useful.
Morgan's going to go to Wainwright for the next 10 years. Man. You're going to Wainwright. That's all I heard.
He's going to Dundurn, buddy.
Are you going to Dundurn?
Funny enough, my RSM was like, yeah, don't worry. I've got a plan for you. We're going to promote you and post you out east. I laughed. I said, no, thank you.
Yeah, that's not working for you.
No, it's really not working for me right now.
Yeah, go send you to Wainwright and teach all.
Just go teach fucking basic sniper shit and go to Dundurn every year and run that.
But how is this helpful for like the deployability of the military? Not just me, but if you're going to take Joe Civvy off the street, put him in a uniform, he doesn't want a COVID vaccine, so he's just going to essentially collect green welfare for 25 years and never leave Canada.
I don't know.
How does that work?
I was going to say, just under how I'm interpreting and how you explained. So that's Directive 3, Morgan. Directive 3.
Correct. Yes, it is.
Yeah, so the way I look at Directive 3, it's at the unit level, and it's at their discretion to keep you or get rid of you. So it's not a case of like we're going to keep you in as long as we can. It's going to be a case of like how we can utilize this individual, and based off their performance. That's the way, honestly, that's the way I'd interpret it. That as leadership. And if we want to get rid of you, we'll get rid of you. We want to keep you, we'll keep you. These are the metrics we can use to keep you in and deploy you and do what we need to do. But this and the way they describe this is very high level and at the discretion of each unit. Again, I haven't read it, but just from your quick dissemination of it and just explaining it, that's how I would interpret it. And that's
Okay,
how I would look at
JT,
it.
how many guys in your unit are not vaccinated?
I'd have to look into that. I don't know. Like, I don't know. I couldn't pull that. I couldn't pull that off the top of my head. So
I'm not putting you on the spot. I just thought that'd be something like you would know how many guys you can't come in, or that did you guys kick anybody out? Did you send anybody home? Like,
nope. Everybody's back, and we're back at parading status at this point. But from what I understand at this point, vaccinated, non-vaccinated, the big thing is you're not coming in if you're symptomatic. And if all of a sudden, like, again, this is all speculation, but if you're having issues coming in, and if this ends up being
we'll stick with fact.
With the facts, yeah. But right now, nobody I could say.
Okay. So this is, if this is confusing to anybody watching this right now or listening to it later, this is the crux of my conversation: is mixed messaging, poor direction, failed application of existing process, of existing rules, regulations, and codes of service discipline that already exist, which is a fucking problem. And this is why I'm pissed off at the CDS, because in his interview, he comes out and defends, the system, saying, well, we gave this direction, and you can read the quotes in there. I'm not going to sit here and put up fucking screenshots of quotes. Go read it yourself. But what he's saying is direction was given. Certain guys didn't follow it, blah, blah, blah. 1,100 guys didn't follow it. Morgan's one of them. And then you look at the practical application of what he's claiming, and it's not unilaterally applied across the board. So I'm going to break this down into layman's terms for everybody watching and listening that is not military or is not familiar with how the service discipline is applied. So basically, and this is not necessarily tied to, what is it, NDA 169? What is it, Morgan? Do you remember?
Oh, for the refusal of immunization?
Refusal of immunization.
It's 126.
126. Okay, so there's a document called the National Defense Act. You can look it all up and read all about it. This is all open source information, which is the framework as to how the military functions. And in that are things that are referenced back to in what is called Queen's Regulations and Orders, Volume 2. There's 3 volumes. One's admin, finance, and one's discipline. Okay. The discipline is Volume 2, and it's basically a book, a document that how leadership in the CF manages discipline and enforces infractions of discipline. So amongst other things, it lists service offenses, pretty much all of them, and then provides guidance on scale of punishment therein. So what happens is, if somebody breaches the code of service system, somebody fucks up, you got a guy, he does something dumb. First thing that happens, back in the day, is a non-specific charge warning is issued to the guy. All right. So I had this little card in my wallet back in the day. I don't know if you guys have them. And it had all the verbiage for what a non-specific charge warning is. And that means this guy fucked up. I read this to him. It tells him you may be charged depending on what happens. What happens next is an investigating officer is assigned to investigate the charges that would be drafted up by the person who initiated the non-specific charge warning, which I've done a few times. Should that investigating officer find the charges warranted, and I'm dating myself, boys, jump in and correct me here at any time, then it's carried on, and the individual in question, depending on the charge, can elect summary trial or court-martial, depending on the charge, and so and that's a process to determine the outcome, whether he's guilty or innocent or whatever. So there's a process to this. And the Canadian Armed Forces has failed to apply that with this entire vaccination process in regards to COVID-19. There's a retired lieutenant colonel named Rory Fowler. You'll see his name in that article, who's challenging, basically not countering what the CDS is saying, but he's kind of arguing how the CF has applied the whole thing.
Yeah.
Not one member, from what I've read, and I'm not in, you guys can speak to this as well, has been charged under 126 of the National Defense Act.
That's correct. That's correct, Chris.
Right? You could translate that into QRNOs into refusal, refusing a fucking lawful command or disobeying a lawful command, whatever. There's your 2 or 3 charges that go on that charge sheet, and they pick through them, right? With a 129 on the bottom, which is a catch-all thing. So typically when somebody gets charged with something, there's usually 2 or 3 charges that kind of match the narrative to what this individual did. And of the 1,100 people that refused vaccination, not one, to my knowledge, and to Morgan's knowledge, or JT's, and to this guy who's a retired lieutenant colonel, who's now a lawyer representing whoever, they have not applied the code of service discipline to this particular quagmire. So it's like guys have been released. I don't know how. Guys have voluntarily released because they've been bullied out. And then there's guys who've dug in like you, because every unit or every service, whether it's Navy, Air Force, or Army, has applied this differently because of a fucking shitty direction from the leadership, from senior leadership down to the unit, to formation and unit level. So, like, I know within the health services group, there are unvaccinated people at work still. And I know that in combat arms units, there's guys who've been fucking basically punted through the uprights of life. And there's guys like Morgan who are fucking dog paddling through in the sea of wasted effort, sitting at home for, 11 months now, over 11 months now. Collected pay and fucking the dog, for lack of a better term, waiting for something to happen. And if you read that article, it's still an interim policy. It contradicts itself. And there's no clear direction. Now, what I would have done, leaving your situation out of it, it's simple. I would have referenced NDA 126. I would have fucking written up the charges, and I would have fucking charged the fucking guy. Boom, done.
Yeah.
What the scale of punishment looked like would depend on what the old man issued, which is the commanding officer, right? If it's left to the CO, it's summary trial. It's like kick the fucking guy out, which is within his rights, or reprimand him or whatever. But I would have followed the process. The problem is the fucking military has shit the bed on this thing, and the people suffering right now are the rank and file, the troops, if you will, on the floor, who do not know what the fuck's going on. Buddy over in that unit got kicked out. Buddy in this unit is at home hanging out in his shit or doing podcasts. This other guy is still at fucking work. So that's what's pissing me off is mixed messaging and not being the way the military is. Troops need clear direction in everything they do. Everything they do. I'm not going to talk about this recruiting fucking waste of time. That's a topic for another night. We beat that to death. And this is a complete fucking bag of shit. So, I mean, I'm going to go around the horn here. Morgan, we're going to start with you because you're still talking to the boys that are in battalion, still grinding, still doing your thing, and guys that are in your boat. Like, what's the feeling with what's coming out with this Directive 3? Like, directives piss me off. I like orders. They're simpler. I don't like policies. I don't like fucking regulations are okay. I like orders. Thou shalt do this or thou shalt fuck off.
I mean, I agree with everything you said, Chris. Like you said, the rules they're already in place. Just follow them. And why wasn't I charged? Like the lawsuit that I'm a part of, when the chief of defense staff is actually, going to be on the stand, and my lawyer gets to question him, like that's going to be one of her questions. How come nobody was charged? How come you didn't follow Like, the NDA, how come you didn't follow QRNOs? Like, they're there for a reason. Like,
Yeah, it's
if,
right there, and they
it's right
just
there, and
fucking
it's not on.
ignored it.
Yeah, and if I have breached the NDA and QRNOs and it's a chargeable offense, they can't just be like, we're just not going to charge them. It doesn't work like that. Like I'm to be charged. Like, you can't say, well, why would you push so hard to demonize me and kick me out of the army, but you won't even follow processes that are already in place?
And that's the mixed messaging, because if you
Yeah.
don't apply the code of service discipline, you lose discipline.
You do. So one thing I'm seeing in the ranks right now, I mean, amongst things we're not going to discuss tonight because we've already just kind of beat them with a dead horse, recruiting and retention and just the state of the calf right now, which is, putting morale in the toilet. Yep. This is just one more thing that's just going to absolutely just destroy morale, because the soldiers, the NCOs, and even like the junior officers, they've absolutely, or they're losing faith in their chain of command, because it's the chain of command's job to accept risk and responsibility, and they've been kind of shirking their responsibilities, and they're not stepping up to the plate. It's been absolute indecision. So, I mean, if you're in the ranks and you're looking at what's going on, it's like you said, it's an absolute quagmire. And I mean, how do you have faith in people that can't make a simple decision and can't even follow their own rules when they're going to bark at me about following rules?
No, it's a complete fucking colostomy bag, for lack of a better term, because you got the troops on the floor, they're looking for direction and guidance, right? Yep. And it's such a bag of shit. They don't know who to trust, who to believe. You lose faith in the chain of command. You lose faith in the leadership, which deters morale, which should, the metal meet the meat, makes them combat ineffective, because if they can't trust you back here in garrison, how are they going to trust you in combat?
Mm-hmm.
And make a decision. Even if I don't like it, fucking make one, and I'll carry on.
And I guess to maybe to stick up for some of the units and some of the some of these commanding officers, like, imagine if you're the commanding officer of whatever unit, and they're like, somebody shits in your hands and says, like, you figure this out. Like, this should be something at a lieutenant colonel at like a battalion level or a regiment level should be figuring out here. Like, this is like political level shit, and you're giving it to a lieutenant colonel and a couple of majors to be like, figure it out. Like, how unprofessional is that?
That is so wrong. That is kicking the fucking ball down the street.
Yeah. And how many times, like, when I have talked to like sergeant majors and RSMs, and they're like, I've reached up to the brigade, and the brigade's reached up to the div, and the div is standing, a division is standing, being like, we don't know what to do.
Right, you got a lieutenant general or whatever the fucking brigade commander.
You got a
commander now, and he doesn't have the answer. So like,
you have like a brigadier or a
brigadier general who does not know the answer. Like, you got to be fucking kidding me.
Yeah.
If that's where we are, and that is exactly where we are.
Well, no, Chris, maybe this is just me spitballing an idea, right? It seems like, right now, I think a lot of like higher ranking officers, general officers in particular, I think a lot of them are afraid to make a decision right now, because it seems like those guys are just getting shit canned left, right, and center. So these guys are walking on eggshells. So like, they don't want to kick me out, because they're like, if they kick me out and they're wrong and it wasn't justified action, well, they're going to hang. But if they don't kick me out, well, maybe they should have, and now they're going to hang because they didn't kick me out. So these guys are frightened to death. They're frightened of their own shadow, and because of that, because of the political climate created by these idiot politicians, it's made these generals put them back them into a corner where they're either afraid, don't know if they're allowed to, but nobody's making any decisions.
And this is exactly, for everybody watching, listening, why we like war fighting better than this shit, because it is fucking cut and dried.
Yeah.
Right. So you have senior leadership, general officers, and I agree with you 100%, afraid to make decisions because they're getting axed left, right, and center for either warranted sexual harassment shit or bullshit sexual harassment shit. You can argue that to the end of time. I don't know. Who's running a shower? No, just in background interference. They're not in position to be. JT, can you hit mute, please? um, to be afraid. You need they're fucking general officers. They make a couple good bucks. They need to nut the fuck up and make these decisions and challenge indecision or questionable policy that lacks the clear direction upwards. So if the brigade commander doesn't know, he needs to hammer the div commander. And if the div commander doesn't know, he needs to hammer the fucking commander of the army, who needs to hammer the CDS. And then it's again, it all lands on the CDS, and the CDS has to go to the fucking MND. I don't even know who it is, some chick.
Anita Anand.
Yeah, sure. You know, and like say, I need this sorted the fuck out. What do you want me to do here? Give me some direction.
Yes.
And let's get on with it, because this is one little piece among many little pieces that are eroding the Canadian Armed Forces' ability to fucking be effective.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to jump in here finally. Good gravy. So, again, lots of big things to discuss here. Lots of big things to unpack here, where the indecision lies. Where you have the Minister of National Defence, who's going to be dealing with Health Canada and other large other large federal organizations as well.
Yep, you're right. You're correct.
Yeah, with COVID, this is new. This isn't the Spanish flu. This is completely new. We're not sure where this is going to go. There's tons of data that has spilt over vaccinated, unvaccinated, how people are actually going to be moving forward with this. So the indecision is very real, very palpable, where you're going to be enforcing people to take the vaccination, not take the vaccination. You're going to kick people out, not kick people out. And at the same time, you have a charter of rights, like freedoms.
Okay.
Rights and freedoms as well, too.
Stop you right there. I'm going to stop you right there, and I'm going to let you continue.
Go for it. Yeah, go for it. Stop.
I get it. Things are new and it's different. Okay. If I rewind the clock to 2009, 2010, every time we rolled out of that gate and your vehicle was behind me, it was new and it was different, and we made fucking decisions.
Yeah, but that was based off of the information that we had. That's real-time information. That isn't like how the cells are going to be reacting to like spike proteins.
Doesn't matter. You need to make decisions. And if the decisions were, if you weren't vaccinated, kick them the fuck out and use NDA 126 to do it.
True, but that you were dealing with H1N1. You weren't dealing with COVID. Two completely different viruses.
It's irrelevant. NDA 126 doesn't change anything. It says if you're not vaccinated, go over there. Out.
And I'm not arguing that. What I'm arguing is the big.
If you're going to sit here and justify fucking shitty decision making,
indecision, not
shitty
decisions.
So you're going to justify indecision. That's what you're going to do. That's what you're going to tell.
Well, yeah, because here, look at Morgan's situation.
The fucking military.
Look at Morgan's situation, where all of a sudden this might all of a sudden cost.
No, but you're telling me you're going to justify indecision. That's what you're going to do right now.
That's what's happening right now. I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying this is probably
that's what I'm asking.
Are
you going to justify indecision?
I'm not the one that's going to make the decision. I'm just saying this is the information. What's the question?
Keep going, but if you're going to justify indecision, I'm going to fucking pound you out through the fucking roof.
What's your question? Make it real simple for me.
No, I'm asking you, are you going to, is the narrative that you're conveying right now, talking about all this bullshit that the medical world has to deal with, and I know you're a medical person.
The federal government has to deal with. The federal government has to deal with.
As a mechanism to justify military indecision, we are not fucking aligned here.
This is what is justifying military, like the indecision. This is exactly what's happening. This is why. But it's not at the CDS's discretion. It's at the oh Jesus Christ, it threw me off guard there. It's at the Minister of Defense. It's at the Minister of Defense's discretion for this. No one wants to make a decision.
Okay,
that's what's
I'm gonna interject there a little bit there, JT. Like you said, it's at the ministerial level to make a decision. Well, I'm going to disagree with you because they kicked it down to a battalion level, and like Chris said, some units guys are at work, other units guys are at home, other units guys have been kicked out. So if a lieutenant colonel or a major can make the call, so can the CDS. The CDS probably should have looked at the Minister of National Defense, looked at the federal government, and said, "Listen, when you guys get your shit together, call me.
Agreed.
And then, but
Agreed.
Other than that, they're kicking the can down the road, looking at the CDS and being like, "Do whatever you want." And he's kind of like, "Well, shit, what am I supposed to do with this? I'm not a politician. I'm a soldier."
Yeah. So let me just put this into context. What I'm saying is
right.
that's why there's so much clout. Like that's why there's so much clout on this. No one wants to make the decision, and they're pushing it to the individual units where they're hoping the individual units or to make decisions, and then from there maybe rally some.
They're hoping the units will make the decision so they can hide under a fucking
Chris,
and again,
post.
this is all
Buddy.
like perspective. It's all perspective.
Chris,
but that's where they're at. That's where they're at.
Yeah, but
Morgan, I can't. Let me just step back here.
Okay,
Morgan, I just want to be very sincere in your situation and where you're at. Like I'm not diminishing it.
No.
I don't have a perspective.
I know that.
I just want you to know that.
No,
okay?
I know. All I'm saying is like, you said like they're like they can't make a decision for whatever fucking reason. No, they absolutely can make a decision. They're choosing not to. It's just like, and you know what? It is a hard decision. Every patrol I went out in Afghanistan, I'm the guy choosing the route. And that route could possibly get somebody fucking killed. I couldn't sit back in the outpost and be like, well, I don't know, so I don't know what route we're going to take. We're just going to sit here and we're just going to go off in aimless fucking directions. No, it was my job. I was sent there. I was the fucking patrol commander. I was the fucking platoon warden. Make a fucking decision and get on with it. And that's what I'm telling the higher ups. Make a fucking decision and get on with it.
And I can agree. I could agree with
JT,
that.
you're talking.
I can understand.
You like to live at 90,000 feet and live in this nebulous space that all these medical professionals and the ministerial level and higher need to fuck around and figure out what this new thing is. But the fucking Canadian Armed Forces does not work that way. It needs direction.
Yes.
It needs clear direction on what it's supposed to do.
Yep.
Whether that was to kick unvaccinated guys out or everybody go home or where we're going to retain guys and isolate them till we figure out whatever the decision was, it's not what they did. They fucked it all up, devolved it down to fucking the colonels, the commanders, unit level commanders, lieutenant colonels who did not know what the fuck to do and are not applying anything across the board. And all that does is send mixed messaging back to the troops who do not know, who don't know. My buddy over in the 3rd Battalion is kicked out. I'm still here. This guy over at 1 Field Am's good to go. And some Air Force fucking guy, he's still at work, whatever. It's a fucking gong show. And I respect what you're saying at that big high head level while they dog paddle through COVID-19. But the fucking military needs clear direction that is unilaterally applied across the board in the interest of maintaining order and discipline and effectiveness. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah. And Chris, like to dovetail on what you said, whether you're a master corporal or whether you're the chief of defense staff, guess what? It is your job. Fucking, you're being paid to make fucking decisions at whatever level you are at. And, it's unacceptable for a master corporal to not make a fucking route card for his fucking section. Well, you know what? On these big decisions, the CDS and his staff got to, pull their pants up and they got to do their fucking job and make a decision.
Yeah.
And is it a hard decision? Absolutely.
Sure it is.
Still
I wouldn't want his job. I wouldn't want Wayne Eyre's job. I wouldn't want his job.
Me either.
I sympathize for the shit he's got to deal with. I do.
Oh,
I'm not shitting on him. Not happy with some of the quotes that were in that article but I also don't trust some of the quotes that were in that article because those fucking media cunts fuck everything up all the time.
Yeah.
I've been a victim of that. So I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, but it's like suck back, reload. And I know he inherited this from the last fucking guy, probably, right? Like, I don't know how many CDSs we've been through in the last 6 weeks. He's eaten some shit. He's eaten some crow on previous decisions. Well, okay, figure it the fuck out. You get paid CDS bucks. Sort it out.
Yeah. And so all I want to say out of that is like it kind of gave a little bit of context. Everybody got fired up. It was an awesome discussion. But this boils down to leadership, boils down to decisions, boils down to whether you're going left or right. And Morgan, I think you really kind of nailed it with your description of the challenging decisions you have to face or we're faced with as leaders, and just being in that that position of leadership and that burden of leadership.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's all I'm saying. I'm just giving more context of why it might be in the state it is, but you're right. Decisions need to be made, processes need to be put into place, and we just need to action things. And it's been a shitty couple of years. So that's all I wanted to say.
And that's fair. I mean, this is definitely to kind of fucking center the pendulum a little bit. This is different than anything else, but I don't care because we use the same analogies about being overseas. Every time you're rolling out is different. React and fucking adapt. That's what you do. Figure it the fuck out. What's going to happen next? I don't know. We'll see. I don't want to keep. I think we've said what we need to say on this.
Yeah.
That there's been mixed messaging. Is it resolved? No, it's not. It's far from fucking resolved. And are we going to come back to this maybe in a month or so? Probably. But it was just I was irritated by the article, so that drove
Hey,
the.
hey, Krista, just a bit of food for thought. So you guys know more or less how I've been treated.
100%.
Hasn't been great.
You're actually the only guy I know. So everybody's listening. If you're tuning in late, Morgan has been sitting at home for 11 months, getting paid, still has his rank, still a warrant officer in the Canadian Armed Forces, still on the REMAR for his unit. So that's where he's at. Keep going.
Yeah. So, with the way I've been treated and everything that we've discussed tonight about, like leadership, the lack thereof, inability to make decisions, just the current direction of the CAF. If you were an RSM, and here I am, senior warrant officer on the brink of being promoted to master warrant officer, do you really think it's a good idea to bring me back to a unit? Do you think I'm going to be able to put the uniform on and tell all these young troopers about, how you're going to be looked after, we're not going to turn our back on you, and other good government bullshit? Or do you think that maybe I'm going to be a little bit jaded and a little bit cynical?
Chris, you mind if I jump in there real quick?
Hang on. I get to be RSM first because I'm senior to you.
All right.
I would send you to Suffield. You're going to Suffield, fucker, range control. I don't know. JT, go ahead.
Morgan, I really appreciate you sharing that because those are some of the challenges that I've been faced with actually returning back to service and getting the uniform on. And I've had very long conversations with Chris and other peers of mine as well, saying, and I'll be very frank, like I've said certain things like maybe I'm the one that's toxic, maybe I'm that's not in a position of like that should be the person in leadership. But I think in your case, what you have to offer to the CAF versus me, night and day. Like you are an invaluable asset. You are somebody that the organization does need, and you're obviously going to be outspoken regarding this. But I think as long as we kind of preface that conversation saying like, hey, like we know your background, we know what's going on, but let's take all the best that you can and try to introduce it into the next generation. That'd be my message to you, and hopefully my mic's working there, Chris. Sorry.
Okay, so serious question. If I was his RSM, I never would have fucking sent you home on November 11th. Somebody would have had to fucking. I would have fought upward. I would have went to the CO. Okay, and I would have said, I want clear direction from you on what you want to do here. Whoa. I said, if you don't know the answer, this is me as the RSM. You call the fucking area commander, div commander. I'm dating myself. And if he doesn't know the answer, call the commander of the army. And if he doesn't know the answer, call the CDS. But I'm not going to fuck my own guys over due to lack of direction. That's what I would have done if I was the RSM. I'm going to fucking park it there.
Yeah.
Hey,
and I think, Chris, if decisions like that had been made, then I would have, I'd be singing a different tune. Because then I would have felt like...
Because you would have been supported by your chain of command instead of fucking sold out due to lack of direction. Now, I'm not in the shoes of you. I don't know who your RSM is. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
But what happened to you versus what happened to another guy down the road, I don't know I don't know anybody else in the situation that you're in. I don't know. You're the only guy I know that this has happened to, where you got, and good for you. Hey, go home for a year. We're going to pay you. Fucking mint. Sign me up for that shit all day, man.
All pensionable.
Anyway, Danielle Smith. We're shifting gears.
All right.
Like, are we okay? We're getting into Alberta politics so for those of you that want to jump out, I fucking don't blame you.
What are you gonna say there, Chris? Because I might jump out. Or are you just
About
gonna give your
Danielle
opinion?
Smith? Oh, it's like
Yeah.
9 seconds worth of content and we're wrapping this shit up. She doesn't have a seat. She's the fucking premier, and every time she opens her fucking mouth, dumb shit comes out. That's all I had to say, really, at the end of the day. She's not gonna last. I don't give there's not enough right-wing redneck fucking idiots in this province to keep her in power. And Rachel Notley, congratulations, you'll be the next premier of Alberta again, and we're in the shit. On that note, I'm going to wrap this shit up. Thank you for tuning in tonight. Mr. Morgan Warren, thank you very much. Mr. JT Ferris, I want to thank my sponsors, DeanBlundell.com. Check it out. You can get my podcast. You can get a bunch of other wicked podcasts on the Dean Blundell Network. Lots of great content on there, sports, news, blogs, and a lot of satirical fun shit. Positive Mike's Brewing Company. You can get the gear. You can get the beer if you come over to my house and have one. Mike makes amazing beer. Mr. Hooper Inc. Go see Bryce. He'll hook you up with alternative forms of medicine. If you want to get off the fucking liver killers, check out Bryce's shit. And my good people at Lakeside Farmstead, Mr. Jeff Nonay and his family, banging out amazing dairy products and amazing beef products. Thanks for tuning in tonight. We'll see you guys on the flip side, and I'll have a good week. Enjoy the last week of nice weather if you're in the prairies, and we'll see you guys next week.